ADNA presents. This is Roy Samuelson, and today we have Olivia Wilusz joining us. She is an audio description narrator and an actor on stage too. This is so exciting to talk to you about all the different stuff that. Hi, welcome, Olivia.
Thank you. I couldn't be silent through the intro.
Yay! Let's start
Yeah.
with the most obvious question. What do you love about audio description?
Oh my gosh. I mean, I love talking and I love watching television. Like bare minimum, those are two of my passions in life. So finding audio description as a narrator and being like, I'm sorry, I get to read a script into a microphone while I'm watching TV, 10 out of 10. This is a dream job. So yeah, I love language. I'm a classically trained actor, so like getting a description script that is really well written and just has like juicy language, beautiful image. If it's a show that's like beautiful images and then we get to funnel that into the script, the language in that, it's very satisfying for me.
Could hear it, and I can see it too. Is the
Yeah.
with that stage training and acting background, you said juicy. Like what makes audio description script work for you as a voice talent? What are the similarities or differences compared to acting?
I think it's a storytelling thing, like it's all just a part of telling a larger story. So, you know, sometimes when I'm explaining what audio description is to people who haven't encountered it before, if they're theater people, I'll be like, it's like reading stage directions for a play. Like it's the information you need that is going to fill in the blanks of the story, and it's about knowing your role and filling that in. So it's never about like taking over and now with my beautiful voiceover description I'm going to be the star of the show, but finding it's finding where you can slot yourself in to serve the bigger story. So it's really really fun, and it is, I mean, we talk about it all the time as narrators, like the the limitations that you have with timing, with conciseness that you have, with like directness that you have to have, and clarity. And those are all things that you learn when you're like learning how to speak Shakespeare and like learning how to do like classical text. You like really have to work with the nuance of language. And um, I find that coming up when I do description narration all the time. So it's really, really cool.
Very cool. And it's almost like we're getting into the writing side as well as the narration side. Do you have experience
Mhm.
writing as well as
I I do, yeah. So I started as a description narrator in 2017, and I was working with the company. I will give them a shout out just because I love them. The artist formerly known as Caption Max, which is now Three Play Media in Minneapolis. I started with them just as a narrator, and just really hit it off with everybody there. They're so talented, and when I approached them to be like, I would love to, do less of my restaurant job and more of this. And they were so open and really helped me learn about scripting as well. So you learn a lot about how to write a good script from being the narrator who reads so many different kinds of scripts. You see so many versions of an end product that I kind of had the experience of, you know, I know what would go in at the front end to get this really good quality script. So I think that gave me a little bit of an edge to when I did also start script writing, that I knew what to be looking for. I think it's hard when people just approach it, people who maybe have a background in writing and they're great, super talented writers, but they don't necessarily have the experience of knowing what to look for. You really have to have like a keen viewing eye of like, what are some even really subtle things that we need to pull out and put into this script. And so I think I just started kind of with a leg up to be like, I've read so many scripts. I know how to start writing, and So yeah, it's I definitely have more experience on the narration side, but I've dipped my toe in the water of script writing as well.
And it sounds like with that experience on both sides, you've really emphasized the nuance of the work of
Mhm.
capturing what audio description is, whether it's through your experience as on stage as an actor or the narration, and then obviously how that fed into the writing. What are some of those other assumptions that you see uh, writers outside of audio description sometimes need to be aware of?
Mm, that's a really good question. I think I think a big part of it might be that when you are used to writing from your own voice, that that's you as an individual and your point of view. But when you're writing the script, a description script, you almost are plugging into the voice of the series. You know, you don't get to layer on your personal point of view. Obviously, we're never going to, completely cut off who we are from what we're describing. So I might notice something and describe it in a different way than someone else would. But it's hard to find that balance of like, maybe you want to describe something a certain way or you wish it was happening differently, and you do have to serve the story. And so, articulate it with the tone that the show is articulating it. It's all a big collaboration. And I feel like something like writing often can occur in a vacuum, and something like this is super, super collaborative.
What about other roles? You've mentioned writing and narration. Did you work in
Mhm.
any other aspects of audio description?
I sure did. So I got really, really lucky. In the middle of the pandemic, I was scrambling, had no idea how I was going to make my ends meet. And the company I was working with at the time um, saw the saw the benefit of having a role as a voiceover supervisor. So they created this role, just someone who had the experience in the voiceover side to really be at the helm of hiring description narrators, making casting decisions, and really being the point person for all the narrators. Because, at least from my experience, it can be a lot of stuff can get lost in the shuffle, and especially when you're working with independent contractors, it's so important so that people know who their point of contact is. So I, applied for that new role of voiceover supervisor and ended up taking it on. And it was a wild experience, just like being like, I know I have the skills to do this, but I've never done something like this before. So I'm jumping in with both feet first. And it was a super rewarding experience, especially because I was really surprised that there the company I was working for hadn't had a ton of experience bringing in specific narrators. Like, it was right around the time I started that they actually were making a concerted effort to only hire people who would be voiceover narrators. Like, that was their skill. Previously, they were really only looking for writers who would write the script and then could voice their own, and they're incredible writers, but maybe didn't have um the training to really bring the script to life with their voice. And so that was really exciting to be on the front end of that and then help them build. So now they have this like incredible arsenal of voiceover artists that they work with that is continuing to grow. And one of my main goals when I stepped into that role, and I was very clear when I started, was the need to diversify our troupe of audio description narrators, our like cohort, because, one of the big things that my boss and I would talk about is like the media landscape is diversifying, and that is so incredible. And therefore, our pool of narrators needs to also meet that, TV and film is not going to get more white. Like we need to be prepared for aligning our casting choices, our voice choices with the content that we're getting. So that was a really exciting thing to be a part of. And I know they are continuing to go in that direction, not just racially, but abilities and all of those things. That's something that they are really working on. So it was a very fulfilling experience to be a part of. Yeah.
I remember one of our first conversations that we had was along these lines of, how does and I remember you being very open and very direct in how you as in that role were approaching diversity as well as
Hmm.
inclusion of blind professionals and how that does make a difference. And there's 2 follow-up questions, if I may, related to that. The first is,
Hmm.
um, when you're looking for a voice talent, for example, you had said earlier about, you as a performer, as a narrator, bring scripts to life, that is a skill set that a lot of people can buy a mic and read a script into a mic. There's something else there that you're talking about. Let's start with that part 1. What is the,
Hmm. Perfect.
if you were to explain to someone outside of the voiceover field, it's not just you have a nice voice. It's not just you buy a mic and you read a script. What is that? How do you share that with someone who might not understand?
Yeah, there's that feeling of they're talking right to you. The person, the narrator has a clear point of view about who they're communicating with. Because we can all hear there's a difference between when someone's reading and when someone's communicating. It's so different. And so it's something that you can kind of hear right away. And so that's something that I'm always listening for. Um, Probably the number one. And yeah, of course, like the timbre, the tone, the clarity, like all of those things. And there's, I think there's an agility that is required with description work, like a vocal agility, that is an extra perk if you have it, and it certainly can be honed. But um, we were really looking for people who, yeah, it sounds like they're talking to somebody as a human, not just reading a script.
Very great. What a great answer. And I guess, back to, the question, this is part 2, that when you're the point person and in the position of being a voice talent and also working on behalf of the company, it sounded like you were able to really be a linchpin between the 2. Like, you're a coordinator, but you're also a connector. Can you talk about
Hmm.
maybe some assumptions you had going into that role that you met or maybe some unexpected things that came up?
Yeah, I mean, it, I don't know if this, the first thing that pops into my head was just like, I had never been in any sort of even corporate adjacent role, but working for, media accessibility company. They don't just do description, they do all sorts of things, and it's a much more corporate structure than anything I was used to. So there's that element of like, we're not just a happy gaggle of folks who are, coming in every day and trying new things and experimenting and see what fits. Like there's this structure that we have to work within because of the company umbrellas that we're working under. There are people we report to, and there are all different kinds of things that my boss is factoring in as we make decisions. And so I think sort of the maybe bureaucratic, if that's the right word, like side of being an official, like having an official supervisor title in a company like that. Um, there was a lot of like emails where I was like, oh, I got to get better at emailing, like stuff that's not the actual work of making description and being, a production company. Like a big part of that is producing um this product that is an entertainment product. So it's not as cut and dry as some business world stuff would be. I would feel so much anxiety around casting because of the way description and accessibility in general is the last thing that a production company that's putting out a documentary or a film or a television series, it's the last thing they're thinking about. So we are at the very tail end. Everybody's like tired and trying to meet their deadlines. And so we're trying to do this in a crunch. So I have maybe a day to make the decision about like who's available, who is the right fit for it. Are they available? You know, can they commit to however many weeks of guaranteed work this is going to be? If they're not available, like who's my backup? All these sorts of things. And it's frustrations of, you know, if the same resources and time were given to accessibility as all the other elements of production when a series or a film is being put together, you know, we could really be thoughtful and take care with those decisions, where I feel like often now they're happening in such a time crunch that it's like, well, I hope I'm making the right decision. Here we go. Like making decisions thoughtfully instead of out of convenience would be so, so great.
Yeah, yeah. You say care, that you've proven your care for the work and in your role there. As you've grown into your performance now, it I can't help but think that your role in that corporate casting side has affected how you approach your own auditions, your own performances?
Yeah, I do think I have a lot more, you know, empathy for how things go as a whole, you know, like for the whole process. So sometimes if I'll get an email that's like, we're so sorry, we're just getting this to you tonight. Can you turn it around tomorrow morning? I often will know the right questions to ask to be like, do you really need it tomorrow morning? If you do, I can. But if you don't, I need you to be honest with me. um, so I certainly, you know, always be ear to the ground of like, did they push back that due date? Because, you know, some things, the way the production companies that we're working with work is that they need everything yesterday. And so it's just really being firm about like, when do you actually need it? Because I want to give you the best thing I can possibly give you, and I can't necessarily do that in less than 12 hours.
So interesting to hear you say that. I think about as an actor, a voice actor, there's a lot of assumptions that I come into these experiences of
Hmm.
what I think you need. I bring my own personal assumptions. And so what I'm hearing in your experience is that you've been able to kind of refocus, and you said it so clearly, that to ask the right questions because of your experience. You were able to identify what those are, and I can't help but think that that goes back to what you said at the very beginning when it comes to storytelling and the importance of that, and how that's what we're trying to do here. It's not it's a really beautiful full circle here that where would you like to go from here? If we go into dreamland, let's be really specific here and ask part 1, part 2,
Great.
your own career and, audio description, where you see it.
Yeah. My own career, I am, like you mentioned, I'm a stage actor. That's where the bulk of my focus goes often. So, you know, continuing to pursue opportunities around that. You know, I'm based in Minneapolis right now. And there's such a beautiful theater community here. And so I'm really honored to be a part of it. And I also, you know, am open to branching out into different mediums for acting, all of those things. And, you know, description filled such a specific like need I didn't even know I had when I found it, where it was this job that utilizes my skills as an actor, which I'm sure you can relate to, utilizes those skills, and I feel like I am positively contributing to society. Like I'm cheating that talking and watching TV is an accessibility service that millions of people need, and I get to help provide it for that. Like, that's so wild that that is something that I get to do. I feel very, very lucky. Um, and I mean, with description specifically, I do not foresee a world in which it is not a part of my work that I do. Like, now that I'm in. I may have stepped away from my corporate position, but I, want to invest in building those skills, building those connections. And I feel like the world of audio description is like at a precipice, and it's about to like really, I think, you know, take off in an exciting way. Like, I would love to see an industry in which accessibility and description in particular is really given the resources that it needs to, you know, make the most incredible product that we can for people who use and need and like audio description. So it's exciting, and I'm happy. I feel very lucky to, be in the world and hopefully continue to make things happen. Talk and watch TV, I guess.
Anything else that you'd like to share with our audience that we haven't talked about yet?
I was like musing about this earlier today, that accessibility services being used by people who don't exclusively need that accessibility service. Like, you know, when people realize, like, oh, it's helpful to have captions on if I can't hear the TV or if it's on mute or whatever. And now, it's a totally normal thing for people who aren't deaf or hard of hearing to use. And I think we're seeing the world in which, like, um, I don't know if you heard it, but Planet Money did an episode about their like Valentines of 2023, and one of the reporters talked about audio description being his Valentine of 2023, and that, he is not blind or hard of sight. He just uses audio description because he finds that it enriches the programming, and like, that is so exciting to hear, because that's, I mean, the work I've done and the people I've worked with, that is their 100%, that's their goal, is to enrich the material that we get. It's never to just check a box to say, like, now this network can say they have audio description on this programming. It's really to make it a richer experience for whoever is viewing it. So I am really, maybe when I talk about, what's possible for the world of audio description, I do think it's that. I think it's just tapping into that element of everybody. This can make our television viewing experience much richer and more exciting. And yeah, we'll see where it goes.
Oh, that's great. And just to be super clear to our audience, we literally just interviewed April Watts last week about that
That's
very
so
so
funny.
let's be clear that I did not prompt you on that. This is not
You didn't at all. I was thinking about it because they mentioned, I described the whole Bachelor, everything for the Bachelor franchise I do. And so they did a clip of that, and I was like, oh my gosh, that's me. I'm on Planet Money.
Oh my god,
And
that's
so
great.
I was like, maybe I'll mention it, maybe I won't. And I decided to. And oh my God, this is synergy. This is incredible.
How cool to know you were on Bachelor, that you were featured on. I didn't know that you were in it too. That's great.
Yeah, yeah, that's me. That's me describing all the rose ceremonies.
Good to know. Very cool. How can we follow you? Social media, websites, anything else?
So bad at keeping up with all the social media things, but you can follow me. I am at Cry Out Olivia on Instagram. We love a good Shakespeare reference. But website is in progress. Eventually it will be something like oliviawillis.com, Wilus as in Sam, Z as in zebra. Feel free to if you Google me, something will come up hopefully in the next couple of weeks.
Sounds good. We'll put a page on the ADNA for your credits if you would feel comfortable with that, and we'll include this link.
Absolutely.
Once that gets updated, we'll be sure to share with our audience.
Awesome.
Thanks so much for joining us, Olivia.
Thank you, Roy. This is awesome.